Okay, so if you're on the fence about whether or not you should end things in your current relationship or keep going, and you just literally can't decide, or you feel like you're in a weird place, this gray area, I want to tell you guys a story that happened to me recently that I think saved my relationship. And it's not something that it could save your relationship, or you might do this anyways. I think doing this anyways, if you haven't already, with the person you're with, would make the relationship better, or just improve it in general. But in my specific circumstance, it was actually something that saved my relationship. Me and my girlfriend, I try not to get too personal with my personal life, but I feel like this is a really valuable lesson. So I'm gonna let you guys in for a split second just to kind of get this point across. But I feel like we're at different places in life, or we have different things to focus on. So obviously a part of me, when you are dating someone, relationships don't have to end just because something bad happens or somebody does something to the other person. Relationships can end simply because you might be on a different part of life or a different, vibration than the person you're with. You can still love them, but if you're not in sync with each other and you're not going in the same direction, then obviously, you're going to separate in the future. Well, I was at a point where I couldn't tell exactly what was going to happen. So I really felt like I was, stuck in a hard place. I don't know the saying, a rock stuck in I don't know, whatever. I really felt on the fence about what to do. And so I had at one point made up my mind. And I was like, all right, that's it. I'm going to end it. And I did. And it really bothered. I could not shake the feeling that I fucked up. And so I was like, I need to come up with an idea to salvage this, because I really feel like I need to know. I need to know if I'm making the right decision or not. And so I need to find a way to make this black and white and to really solidify this relationship. So I came up with this idea, and it was kind of some ideas that I had pulled from the past of like different things and whatnot. But I kind of put them all together, and I told her, hey, come over. She was actually just coming over to grab some things. And I was like, hey, sit down. I want to talk. And so we kind of talked about some stuff, and I wanted to make sure we were in the same space. And so here's what I did. I basically said, I got 2 pieces of paper, and I was like, we're each going to take our own paper, and we're going to do this exercise. And I told her, I was like, I want you to write 30 things that your ideal partner must have, and then 30 things that they must not have. And I will do the same. And at first, I know everyone thinks 30, like, holy shit, that's a lot. That's a lot. And that's the point, because the point is to get you to think. The point is to really, really, really start to conceptualize the person you are looking for, the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, the person you want to be with. So that's what we did. And it took, that part is honestly the longest part of the whole thing. It took like an hour. It took an hour, because that's 60 things total. So 30 things, they must have, and then 30 things they must not have. And that took a long time. And once we were done with those 30 things for each piece, we read them to each other. And so, she read hers, I read mine, and then, she read her must nots, and I read my must nots. And it was little things, you could make it one word, you could make it a description, anything, describe your ideal partner. And then I was like, okay, we're going to take, I have my 30 and 30, you have your 30 and 30. Now let's go through and get a new piece of paper and pick the top 10 from each section. Pick the top 10. This took like 30 minutes. But the idea is to understand that the person you're going to be with, or the person you want to spend your life with, is not going to be perfect. If they were perfect, they would hit all 30 things. And you're never going to find somebody that does that. But the idea is to really start to get an idea of what's important to you. When you find these top 10 things, these are your absolutes. These are your deal breakers. If you cannot follow my 10 must-haves, or my 10 must not haves, then we are just not compatible, and that's okay. So that's what we did. We spent the next, 30 minutes or so picking our top 10, and then we read them to each other. And we took turns sharing what our each things were. And then we get to the last part of the exercise, which was to take your top 10 things for each my top 10 must-haves, my top 10 must-not-haves, and give a brief description of what that looks like to you. What does that mean? You're almost giving each one a definition, something very specific, something that's you can visualize, you can see, you can tell, you know what's happening or not. Something that's auditable, so to speak, something you can audit. And so then we spent the next 30 minutes or so giving each one a definition. So I gave my 10 must-haves a definition, my 10 must-not-haves a definition. And then again, once we were both done, we went through and we shared them with each other. We read them off to each other. And then we switched papers. And this is so that you can actually read theirs. You can not only hear it, but you can read it, you can see it, you can start to internalize it. So we switch papers, we read each other's lists, and then we ask questions. If there was any sort of piece of gray area or uncertainty, or anything you were unsure of, ask about it. Any questions you might have, read through that entire list and really, really make sure you comprehend every single piece. You understand all of it in its entirety, 100%. There are no leaks, gaps, cracks, misconceptions, misunderstandings, none of that. So you ask any possible questions you can think of, and we took turns asking about each other's lists so that we really, really understood what they meant to us. And then after we have our lists and we understand that, and we had gotten to a point where we agreed, okay, I like your list, you like mine. I think you asked the question basically, which is, are you willing or do you want to be the person on my list? Is that somebody you would be happy being? And if they say yes, then you're good. Or if honestly, they should just be that person, and that's kind of where we were at. And then it was vice versa. Would I be happy being the person on her list? I was like, yes, that is who I want to be if I am not them already. And so when you come to that agreement and you realize, okay, I like the person, I want to be the person you want to have, and you want to be the person that I want to have. So now we go through each other's lists and you finalize it and you read them back to each other. So I had her list and I would read, in order to make this relationship work, and that's a side note, a key point there. There is no good or bad relationships. There are no, grass is greener on the other side. There are relationships that work and relationships that don't. Okay, so don't rate your relationship. It either works or it doesn't. This is advice I got from my dad that sat so well with me. I love that. For me, I really enjoy that perspective of there is no, could it be better? Could it be worse? It either works or it doesn't. Anyways, so I would take her paper and I would read, in order for this relationship to work, I must, and then I read off her 10 things. And then I would get to the second half, and I would say, in order for this relationship to work, I must not. And then I would read off her 10 things. And then she would do the same thing. And now not only have we really clarified what we want and what we need in a relationship and where our boundaries and our standards are specifically, but we've also written, read, spoken, and internalized what those values mean to us. So now we are literally on the same page. And that alone, I think, saved our relationship and has put it in a better spot than it's ever been. So I highly recommend, if you are somebody in a relationship, maybe your relationship is absolutely phenomenal, I would still recommend you do this. It is a phenomenal exercise. And I know 30 seems like a lot, but I'm telling you, you don't shorten that. Make sure it stays at 30 because it's supposed to be challenging. And it's, if you're with someone that cares about the longevity as much as you do, then to sit down and really think about this for an hour shouldn't be a problem. And that's a test in of itself, which is, is my partner even willing to do this exercise with me, knowing it's going to be mundane and boring, but can they conceptualize the value we're going to get from this? And that's how you save and or improve your relationship in my life and from my opinion and my perspective. This is something that worked for me. So that's how I saved my relationship. I'll see you guys.